From the state of Delaware, Chris Coons. He's a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. So, Senator, your thoughts on all of this? Unlike the Mossad, which strategically targeted and systematically targeted all of the members of Black September who were involved in the Munich 72 massacre, that this would have seemed to have been a happy accident. This was an Israeli squad that was operating in the south of Gaza, got into a firefight. It just so happens that they took out the leader of Hamas.
Well, John, no matter how it happened, this is a great day for justice, for all those who lost loved ones, for all those who are still awaiting the release of their family members who are held hostage by Hamas beneath Gaza. That the architect of the brutal, murderous October 7th attacks is dead is a moment of justice, a moment also where we might see a new opening for a resolution of the war in Gaza if whoever succeeds Yahya Sinwar is able to grasp the moment and release the remaining hostages, which still includes Americans. I'll remind you and our viewers today, John, that one of the main reasons why Hamas struck on October 7th, in addition to their ideology being a hateful anti-Israel, anti-Jewish ideology, was they wanted to stop the steady progress towards Saudi Arabia and Israel recognizing each other, reconciling and ending the Arab-Israeli conflict and delivering regional security against Iran and its proxies for Israel. My hope is there may now be a window to resume and move forward that conversation.
Senator Sandra here. We continue to watch these celebrations on the ground there in Tel Aviv, where we've got a live camera up. Bottom right of your screen, we're anticipating a State Department briefing. We'll see that shortly. We're also anticipating remarks from Vice President Kamala Harris, who's on the campaign trail. She's in Wisconsin right now, I believe the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. She's going to remark shortly. What would you like the message to be coming from our leadership here following the confirmed death of Sinwar?
First, a recognition that he's a murderous terrorist who's killed Americans, killed Israelis, killed people from a wide range of countries, killed Palestinians, and that we should recognize that this is a good moment, that, frankly, justice was done. Second, that we need to redouble our efforts to support a pathway towards peace, a resolution of the conflict that will provide real and lasting security for Israel and the Israeli people. And last, that we need to continue to work together to make the region more secure. The strike that the Biden administration ordered last night against the Houthis used one of our most remarkable capabilities, these B-2 bombers that literally fly around the world from, I believe, Missouri in the United States to hit targets in the Middle East. They used some of our most sophisticated bunker buster bombs and should have reduced the threat the Houthis pose to commercial shipping in the Red Sea. But the message there is clearly also directed to Iran, that we have the capabilities to push back on their regional proxies, to reduce the threat that they pose both to Israel and to the civilian people of the region, the Lebanese and the Iraqis and the Palestinians who've been the victims of Hezbollah and Hamas and the fighting in recent years, and that we should all take an opportunity here to move forward in resolving this conflict in a positive way.
You mentioned a moment ago that Yahya Sinwar was responsible for killing Palestinians, and he has in many different ways. He became known as the Butcher of Khan Yunis because he took a number of Palestinians who were accused of collaborating with Israel and personally killed them with a machete. A lot of people would say he's responsible for the death of thousands of Palestinians there in Gaza because he has been using them as human shields. But Senator, for the last few months, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris have been urging Benjamin Netanyahu to sign on to a ceasefire. And obviously, there's a lot of suffering in Gaza. There's a lot of suffering in Israel. There's a lot of suffering going on in Lebanon. And it would be good to bring this thing to a close. But you got to bring it to a close in a way that doesn't leave Israel with a daily existential threat that it faces. But if Benjamin Netanyahu had have listened to the president and the vice president, Sinwar would still be alive instead of being dead.
Well, let's be clear. No one has stood more strongly behind Israel and its security than our President Joe Biden. He has pulled together a regional coalition to make sure that the 2 times in recent months that Iran has directly attacked Israel, they failed. Their missiles, their drones, the hundreds of missiles and drones that they launched both recently and in the spring, did not cause any significant damage in Israel. And that's demonstrating his insistence that we will continue to stand by Israel. I frankly think that the Mossad eventually were going to find and kill Sinwar, no matter where he was, no matter what he was doing. And as you said, John, earlier in this interview, it may end up having been a lucky moment in fighting rather than a targeted attack that killed him. But I never had any doubt that the Israelis would ultimately bring him to justice. Just as the United States, we waited until, I think it was 2011, before we ultimately found and killed Osama bin Laden. It was an important moment for us to achieve justice for the victims of 9/11. This is an important moment for Israel to achieve justice for the victims of October 7th. But the question going forward is, how do we make peace and security that is lasting for Israel? At some point, there has to be a ceasefire and a regional reconciliation.
It appears there's a brand new statement coming from the White House, and President Biden will be speaking soon with Israel's Netanyahu to discuss bringing hostages home and ending the war. This is a brand new statement. Surely we'll somehow get a readout.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.